Babe, what is that?
Extar EP9. What's up guys, this is Chris here, and today we're going to be talking about a pretty cool little carbine. Today we're going to be going over the Extar EP9 full 16-inch rifle. Now, this is an interesting little product, and it is a large version of a gun that we've been shooting on the channel for a long time. The Extar EP9 is a mass-delayed, blowback operated 9mm 16-inch carbine. So we have a 16-inch barrel there. We have an M-LOK rail, and comes threaded 1/2 by 28, and it takes Glock mags, which is really, really cool. So you can use the 25s, you can use the Glock 17 mags, and you can even use the little shorty 19 mags, and I honestly think the 26 mags will fit in there as well. So whatever Glock magazines you have will work with this gun, which is pretty neat. Down here we have standard AR trigger, standard AR controls, so if you want to switch those out you can. Standard AR grip as well, so if you want to switch it out you also can. Buffer tube system, so you can put any of your stocks that you want on there. I have a BCM on there. It comes with a Mission First Tactical, which is cool, don't get me wrong, but I like this one better, so I swapped it out. The previous versions that we had was a pistol version, and there's some legality issues with that lately, which is kind of a pain in the ass, so a rifle version just simply makes sense, especially considering what you can do with this, what this is capable of, and the price point that it comes with is kind of the real star of the show, which we'll get into later. Now, I do want to mention that Extar sent us this gun, but it won't change our opinion in any way. Now I want to mention my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys very much for helping out the channel. Really appreciate all your support, and hopefully you guys really enjoy the content. We try to make it for you and not the industry, so if you like that, go down to the description, click the link, and sign up for Patreon. Also in that description is a link to a local shelter named Iowa. It's the YSS. Those kids could really use your help, so please go down and donate to those kids. And then finally, we'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, Sonoran Desert Institute. The SDI has been a longtime sponsor of the channel, and we love them. We really believe in what they do, and they try to give you the best education possible in the firearms industry. If you're looking to be a gunsmith, drone operator, anything in the firearms industry that you need an education for, I would check out the Sonoran Desert Institute. They are absolutely excellent on what they do, and they can provide you a career that's not only happy, but makes some money too. Now, why would you want a 9mm rifle? Well, first off, they're pretty quiet when they're suppressed. They're pretty low recoil. They're pretty easy to manage, very low blast. So they make a pretty good gun for indoor use, especially for home defense use. A lot of people frown on the 9mm carbine for self-defense, but it works, trust me. If a handgun works, obviously a rifle works, and works better. The point of self-defense is to hit your target, and you hit your target better with a rifle, and on top of that, you get a little bit more velocity and a little bit more range with something like this, while still taking the same magazines that you probably use for your carry gun. So if you carry a Glock, this just makes sense. Also, Glock magazines are super cheap, super available. You know, you can get these for like $15 to $30, depending on where you buy them, and you can have a whole gang of them, not only for your pistol, but for your carbine as well. Now, as far as this carbine goes, what would you want this carbine for? Well, we shot 500 rounds through this, and we had no reliability problems whatsoever, as I kind of expected, because even though it's on the low end of the price point at under $500, the previous one used to come out for around $300, and it was stone cold reliable, suppressed or unsuppressed as well. We shot this suppressed and unsuppressed and had no problems with either. My wife shot 115 grain Blazer brass, and she didn't have any issues, a couple hundred rounds. And then I shot Winchester 147 grain subsonic. And now sometimes guns have problems with subsonic because, well, you have to get it slower, so you use less powder generally, use a slightly bigger bullet. That's why 147 versus 115. But it can cause cycling issues. In this case, it did not. Very cool. Now, some of the advantages of a rifle is you can put a vertical grip on it and a stock on it and not have to worry about it, and it can be more ergonomically comfortable. This is still super lightweight like the pistol, so super affordable and super lightweight. Sub 5 pounds, which is very cool. I think it's like 5.5 as configured here, because I put a little heavier stock and an optic on it and a grip. However, the trigger's good, the safety's good. I would prefer an ambi safety, but $500 gun, what are you gonna do? Now, the shootability and the recoil impulse was a lot better than I expected. Not to hate on it too much, but a carbine that comes to mind is the Kel-Tec Sub 2000, which is about the 4.5 pound mark, so it's a little bit lighter than this, but not much. And the recoil impulse on that is much more than this.
There is some kick to this for sure.
And I think that has to do with the mass delayed blowback that this gun uses and the slightly better ergonomics. AR ergonomics are great. That's why most guns use them. And it's just easier to keep the gun in your shoulder pocket and keep control of the gun than something like the Sub 2000. It's shot kind of along the lines of the Smith & Wesson, the FPC. It felt very similar in recoil and pulse to that, but maybe even a little bit less. Really high rate of fire with this, and that's what you'd want in a 9mm carbine. You know, one's good, 20's better. So it's nice to have a high rate of fire, especially close range, because that's likely how you're going to be using it. Now, another use with this is obviously just going to be fun and training.
Oh my God, this thing is so awesome. If you don't like PCCs, you are silly because they are so fun.
So you could have something like this, which has very similar controls to your AR. It's gonna feel the same. You can use the same accessories, same optic, and then you're obviously gonna have the same trigger if you want, same safety if you want, same grip if you want. It's gonna feel very similar for pretty cheap, and then you can shoot steel up close, and you can shoot ammunition that's sometimes 1/3 the cost. So 9mm is super cheap, and it's super fun to shoot steel with, and that would be my primary reason for this. But honestly, it would be a great primary gun as well for a standard civilian. Obviously, you're not going to use it for a military application or anything like that, but for a civilian, if you're looking for a $500 gun that shoots the same ammo that your handgun does with the same magazines, and you just want something bigger and easier to shoot for self-defense, this makes sense in my opinion. Now, the ergonomics are really good on this, and I really like the side charging handle on the Extar. It's kind of crazy that a $500 gun gets a lot of things right that thousands of dollar guns get wrong, but this is how you do a fucking charging handle. It's easy to get to. I would argue it's better than an AR charging handle, just simply because of the placement and the fact that it isn't on both sides. Now, I know that sucks for lefties. It does.
And once again, I am left eye dominant, so I shoot rifles left-handed.
But for right-handed shooters, that's better. Why? Because you have less spots where you can get stuff in there, and on top of that, it's just really easy to use and really easy to operate. The bolt release, all those controls can be switched if you want a larger bolt release, although I don't see a reason to. And then over here, we have this standard Glock magazine release, which is always kind of a point of controversy on pistols or on AR style guns that use Glock mags because of the magazine release that the Glock uses. You can't get a magazine release exactly perfect the way you'd want it with an AR. It's always a little bit harder to push simply because it has to release all the way up here, but it still works really well. Now, a couple of the cons of the gun that we saw in the first 500 rounds are that the magazines do not drop free.
Brand new, the mag just didn't fall because it's plastic on plastic basically.
So you are gonna have to strip the mags, very similar to like an MP5, let's say, SP5, something like that. Those guns, you also have to strip the mags. So if you're gonna do reloads, you just pull it out and put the new one in. She likes it anyway. Now, I doubt you're gonna be reloading your 9mm carbine in a self-defense scenario, and I doubt you're gonna be using the Extar for a competition style situation, simply because there just are a lot better guns out there. But if you were, that would probably be where you would run into reload issues, you know, seconds on the clock, stuff like that. But I find it hard to believe if you were packing one of these, you would need any more capacity for like a home defense scenario. If you're popping off 25, 30 inside your house, I mean, you've got a lot of fucking problems. So I think the reload isn't the biggest deal, and honestly, it's pretty easy to pull them out and push them back in anyway. That's usually the case with Glock magazines anyway. My mags get stuck on my Glocks all the time because when they get a little dirty, these polymer coated magazines that Glock has always used, they just don't have the lubricity that something like a steel magazine would from a Smith & Wesson. So a little bit of an advantage on the Smith mags versus the Glock, but still really good. Now, the old Extars didn't have a lot of the features that come out in the new ones, and my pistol version is the Gen 1. So it had almost none of this cool stuff. It comes with a better grip than the previous one does, which is really nice, more vertical, and it feels a lot like a Magpul XL. The buffer tube system, just because it is a rifle, is designed to accept stocks, which is nice. It doesn't wobble. There's nothing wrong with it. It's very tight and pretty quality as far as I'm concerned. Then we have the M-LOK rail, which is a new feature for them, at least compared to my, oh, look at my crush washers falling off. I wonder how long it's been doing that. Fucking people in the comments are like, this fucking idiot. The M-LOK rail is nice. I like that it has Picatinny rail across the top. Sometimes they do away with that. I like that, especially if you're gonna mount a scout light or something. And then I like that they put the M-LOK up above. A lot of people put it on the same horizontal plane as the barrel, although sometimes it gets away with your hand. I like to run the light above anyway, so that's nice. But remember that this is a polymer rail and a polymer upper receiver, and that's gonna be the downside to the Extar. The polymer rail is gonna work for vertical grips, it's gonna work for weapon lights, stuff like that. But if you're gonna put a laser on it, it's not going to work. It's not probably going to keep zero based on my estimate, because a lot of times these Picatinny rails on the polymer will wear down, and that could be an issue with your optic as well, although we have 2,000 rounds for the previous one and we beat the shit out of it and we haven't seen that. But just know that polymer is obviously weaker than most aluminum, so you could have failure points there. Now, as far as the polymer upper receiver, I do feel like that could be a downside with 5.56 guns. That always scares the shit out of me because I'm afraid I'm gonna blow up in Kentucky ballistics myself. However, with the 9mm, you just don't quite have the pressure and power going on in there, and it doesn't worry me nearly as much, honestly. So I'm not as worried about that. All the parts that need to be steel, the barrel, the bolt carrier, the magazine release, the trigger, the safety, all that stuff, they're all still steel. So the important stuff is still hard, and it's still hard enough. But overall, I like the gun so far. We've got 500 rounds through it, and it operated the exact way I expected. It shot a little bit better than the Carbine, and it shoots a lot better than a lot of guns that are more expensive than this, because the mass delayed blowback does work. And really, a lot of the difference in what you get as far as higher end carbines is going to be ergonomics, and it's going to be recoil and pulse. You can get cheap blowback operated PCCs that work at the $500 price point like this. Now, is this going to shoot as quick and as fast as a JP5? No, but you can buy 7 of these for the cost of one JP5, so there is that as well. And you really have to decide where in the spectrum you lay. Last thing I want to mention a little bit, big hands, big glove issues. Trigger guard is massive, so it's really nice for winter applications. And then when we put the suppressor on, it works super great and was very quiet. Overall, first 500 rounds down the pipe, I'm pretty excited about this, and I would recommend it so far.
Another gun I am in love with and will never get rid of.
All right, that being said, we're gonna do a full review on it, and you'll have to see that probably in a few months. We like to separate them a little bit, and we like to put them through a little more adverse conditions. It's kind of nice to shoot a gun in the fall and the winter, kind of figure out if it works in both. So we're gonna be doing that. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. If you want to see this compared to anything, let me know in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe. Please support your Oklahoma shelters, and remember to recycle. I'll check you later.
That was Jingle Bells, if you didn't catch that.